Yeah, it is. Oh, I think I got a huge knot in the middle of this. It's from where I tie my hair back. It just, yep, there's a mass here that's just congealed. Point is, it's easier with the sides shaved and the back shaved than having the thing be their whole main style. You've played the thing, haven't you?
Played the thing?
Yeah.
You mean started?
You've started. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you when. It wasn't. It's not as much. I think it's not as bad as you might expect. It's not everything.
It
didn't.
Did it have the gay hair in it?
He was talking about his hair for like literally 20 minutes before I started. So
that is a lie. Harry started it by talking about the volume of his hair.
I did actually.
So I went like this.
Or the sides of my arms.
Yeah. And then yeah. Point is, welcome. Hello. Welcome.
Welcome to the 69th episode of the Barrel Vision podcast.
Go. This was our goal the whole time.
Why did I do that? I'm sorry.
You should be.
But not really. I don't think I've ever apologized in my life. I think no, that's not right. I was about to say Ghost Ship need to apologise. No, Ghost Ship have apologised a bit too hard for some people. If you consider this an apology update of sorts.
I mean, are we going straight into this? Is there nothing else? I'd be more than happy for that to be the case.
I don't know, because I don't, I feel like certainly, I would say, if anything, the weapon maintenance thing probably isn't going to have any bearing on this, given, I don't know, that's just a good thing that we haven't had any experience with yet. And people aren't really talking about it either, because it's probably just serving its purpose perfectly fine. So it's everything else that people are reacting to. But obviously, I still don't know how I feel about the because I want to talk about the branding of the update basically first, because it's the November maintenance update just released. It released yesterday for Steam. not for us. We got 2 weeks. Two whole weeks.
There's something I want to point out there, is because I assume you're going to refer to the fact that they're just calling it a patch, right? Like a 4.10 patch or something like that.
Well, yes, a little bit. It's still like placed within season 4. That's sort of what is going on. You look at the trailer; it still uses like the season 4 key art. It's like its backdrop, and it's just like maintenance update. And because I was thinking maybe they could come up with a different name for it or something, like based on what's actually in it. So they're still, they're not treating these from a branding perspective with too much. They're not. I don't know. They're just not. They're not elevating it from a branding perspective. I wasn't actually expecting a trailer though. To be fair, not quite.
Yeah.
So that was a pleasant surprise, ever so slightly. And we talked about how it's appropriate that it's narrated by Aaron instead of Robert, because usually the main update trailers are narrated by Robert, who is the art director and the voice of Mission Control, and that sort of makes sense. Like I did say, it's still self-aware that it's a game, but it's still sort of role-playing a little bit. It's like Mission Control briefing you. But this, you can't do it that way. You just can't. But they still did a trailer, and I think they needed to, at least. It's not the kind of thing that you can give teasers for, really. Although, if you took like the little clip they showed of like the roll control thing in the trailer, that could have functioned perfectly fine as a teaser, like a little 10-second clip of that.
Yeah, but I feel like they were trying not to overplay it too much, right? They were just kind of trying to state what they have done and really keep that hype to the bare minimum.
Yeah, it still exceeded my expectations in terms of how much is in it. Immediately, I would say immediately, because my very initial thoughts when they sort of revealed these that these maintenance updates were going to be a thing was like, honestly, like a third of this was actually what I was originally expecting, which is probably just too low. Like genuinely, that was probably unfair. I still think they went they did a little bit more, and I think they admitted that really, like the weapon maintenance system is that basically. They weren't anticipating adding a new feature like that. The season toggle makes sense, and obviously that's like the other main feature. But yeah, the weapon maintenance system is like it kind of just came out of nowhere, and it's pretty cool, pretty cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I like it. I love playing it.
well, that was my point. Is that it basically said it was a patch, or like that it's not that big a deal. Yet it is clearly an update. Like the fact that we get it in 2 weeks means it's so much stuff and stuff that they can't just slip in. Like Xbox has to.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, you look at the Steam post classification; it says major update, even though they say this is formally season 4.10. But it's absolutely an update. It's not. I guess the difference is, and this is sort of, I guess, going to be the nature of updates that aren't seasons now. It kind of tells us something that the updates aren't there to move the game beyond the current season necessarily. And I don't know if this has anything to do with possibly further confirming the 1 season per year thing, though, because I think it might genuinely. Where it's like
it doesn't confirm it, but I think it reinforces that that's kind of a good idea.
Like seasons are a yearly thing, and the seasons will get like this is a season 4 update, or in a way,
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an update to the game in a lot of ways, but it's also a season 4 update, and the seasons will have multiple updates in between each season, and the season will just be a longer thing, which I think, obviously, relatively untested as a format still, but that sounds okay to me. I think as a format going forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a trailer, and I got confused about who was narrating because I'm an idiot. I thought that Aaron was putting on a Danish accent when it was actually Mark, who they mentioned that it's like hello, this is Aaron and Mark here, and I thought, oh, Mark's just like the guy who made the trailer or something because I'm an idiot. And I was like, why is Aaron? Why does he sound like he's picking up a Danish accent? What's going? Are they assimilating him? But no, it was someone else. But even you said they sounded pretty similar, so I'm not completely insane.
Yeah, they kind of do. I didn't notice whenever they changed. Like it just sounded like a bloke talking.
Well, I noticed when they changed when I realised what was going on. When I figured it out.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, we've got more than just the trailer now, though, right? Like, I mean, we got the whole bloody thing is out.
Got everything. Well, yeah, everything's out there to see. Oh god, I want to talk about this immediately. So. And I expected this, which is the fact that they're not. It's not literally they're just going to push these updates out and then just completely leave them in the dust, right? Because even though this is just all like refining stuff, basically, there can still be things that crop up. Like there was a patch like a couple hours after the main update, and it said fixed rocket barrage, not deactivating missile guidance.
Oh. That would have been a nice time to play that.
I mean,
in all fairness, I think they slipped in a lot of things, not just in obviously that patch, but like in the thing, like the bug notes on the bottom bit had some things in it, like unreasonably like kind of cool things that they just completely dropped under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about. I can't remember if we talked about this. On something, it was basically about if we're. I think you basically asked me if I'm expecting any surprises, and I said no.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be exactly what was in the original preview, but there are absolutely changes that I didn't expect. And obviously, something that still I knew was probably going to surprise me was certain balance changes, and that's absolutely the case. Especially with it's much more directed the effort of the balance changes in this case. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Because I'm a greedy bastard. I was like thinking to myself, oh, I wish there was more balance changes, but they still put a lot into what they put it into. And I wasn't expecting balance changes at all in this update. I was expecting this to all be enemy balance, not weapon balance, and it was both.
Yeah.
It was like. And it did all the enemy stuff. And the weapon balancing stuff is still broader than expected because of the electrocution change, which was probably the biggest surprise. That sort of we found out from the trailer, which was very, very great.
Well,
It's just awesome.
it was arguably, I mean, reading the thing, I think it was basically like a rework, right? That they remade electrocution to use like a different, like a newer effect, right? A newer slowdown effect.
Well, maybe that is actually why they used the taser bolts in the video, because they changed it to that version of it where it can electrocute anything.
Yeah.
That's basically what I think is going on. And this is going to, and this is where, like, because the actual balance changes. First of all, nothing for Driller, and that doesn't, and that goes the same for the electrocution thing as well. That doesn't change anything there. There was
slightly incorrect though.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that. But yeah, obviously, the weapon balance changes were very focused on engineer and the coil gun. But the electrocution thing broadens it out to everything that uses electrocution. Suddenly there's going to be all of Scout's primaries, first of all. And the smart rifle and the breech cutter and even a few gunner things as well. I mean, I would say the electromagnet guys have got even more ammunition, but you don't. Even if it's gotten better, the coil gun's gotten a lot better, so you can fuck right off. I'm not going to take any electromagnet's praise.
I've seen some things where people aren't actually sold on the buffs of the thingy, although apparently the reload on the coil gun is now insane.
Yeah, but I don't know how to feel about that. I think that, do you know what I think that is? I think that's the fact that people can't see the coil, they still don't see the coil gun as anything other than Hellfire and Mole as like a meme thing. I think that's still all they see it as, and they're just trying that, and they think it's kind of worse because the changes don't exactly play into it. But I see so much potential. I see the fact that my already overpowered coil gun build got objectively exponentially more powerful, and I am frothing. I am so scared that they're going to nerf it. But I at this point I'm convinced that no one's ever going to know. Doesn't matter how much work, doesn't matter how much I say, doesn't matter what I do. No one's going to know that ultramagnetic coils is the most overpowered thing in the game, and I want it to stay that way. I feel like such a little villain. With this, it's great.
That like the one thing they did nerf was Hellfire, right? They did nerf Hellfire's radius.
In a roundabout way. You can still make the radius what it originally was by taking the radius mod. So it's nerfed the version of it when you take Electric Trail, is what it's actually done. You can still have it be exactly the same size as it was before, but the Electric Trail version is smaller. That's the difference now. But yeah, we probably shouldn't be talking about the coil gun just yet. I don't think. We don't have to be linear, but it helps me. It helps me be linear. I mean, we can, I guess, and I guess the first thing is the season toggle. The toggle. Season toggle, yeah. Which was obviously, I guess it's the biggest deal of the update, realistically. It's certainly the thing that has borne the most out of community feedback. And therefore gives this update its identity for the most part, is now having this ability to switch off the season. And it's that feature alone, barring the actual changes made to like the rock pox and anything like that, it's done, I think, everything it's supposed to do. And they very cleverly avoided having to do certain things in that, it's still technically season 4, so that meteorite's still there. It's like the window. I assume I assume it will still. That's the thing. Will it still be there? Will you still be able to see it if you turn the toggle off? You probably should.
Probably.
It's literally...
I think the decorations are still there, right? The hub.
That makes sense. That's weird. Does it say?
Because it's not actually like the rock box had ended, is it? It's basically like, or the way they role played it into making sense is that like the dwarf feels like he's done enough, so he stops bothering, right? That's like the in-law, like in-world, like explanation. I think they went with, in that it's just kind of they've had enough and they've turned it off, so they can stop dealing with them. Which it is what it is. But I haven't heard much about it. I think I've heard a little like annoyance about it being level 100, but that was from a while ago, right? Like,
that's still kind of present, and
announced
that is still a conundrum of sorts, because it's because I feel like the people reacting to it, they're reacting to it because it's for season 4. They're not thinking about it necessarily as like an ongoing feature, which it will be. For season
They
5,
confirm
like,
that, or are you
well, yeah,
hard assuming?
no, it's going to be
Yeah,
there every season. Yeah,
right.
that's the fact. Um,
Yeah,
but like, I feel like a lot of the people who are really upset about having to reach level 100, it's because of season 4 being season 4, not because that's inherently unreasonable. Um,
yeah.
and I don't know what to make of that. I think the argument that something that they said at one point was if they make it anything less than 100, people would just be saying, why isn't it 0? You know, so that
Yeah.
I understand, but then I don't inherently think it shouldn't be 0, because maybe it should be. I feel like it's either just gonna be on or off, and I don't know where I stand still. I'm really conflicted on this, and I don't think I actually have like the. I don't think my experience of the game is appropriate to actually dictate like the objective good like solution, because I haven't had a problem in terms of the gameplay or anything like that. So
with yeah, yeah, and with that being the case, is that the people that have had a problem with the gameplay, it has been fair, right? Like the Rockbox has been unreasonable, all that stuff. But from now on, if you're forced to do the season stuff, it is so much better, right? Like, I mean, we'll get onto the details of this, but they have made the experience of dealing with the Rockpox, Corruptor, all the stuff that you would be turning off a lot better, right? Like, it was fair enough beforehand because it kind of sucked, right? Like, it's like turning it off, you would want to do that as early as possible. But now it's in a good enough place, or hopefully it is, to where being forced to do it doesn't feel that bad. And then even if you still don't like it, eventually you can turn it off. But I think with it being good, I think it's tough shit. Play it. They made it. You play it.
yeah,
It's their game.
I think I might have to get the door.
The Switch. I think it's like with the way that they've improved Rockbox, you should kind of be forced to do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think you should be anyway, but it was really unreasonable with how bad it was beforehand. But now, if it is in a better state,
we need
than it
to
looks
sort
like
of be
it is,
careful though, because
then
obviously we haven't got our hands on it, and we don't know how much it's changed. But
no.
I also
But
need to state the
from
fact
what
that
I read,
it's just I'm sorry, I don't mean I don't I have to be blunt about this. It wasn't as bad as a lot of people said. It wasn't as bad. It wasn't good, but
yeah.
it wasn't as bad, and which is why I don't see how it can't be good enough now. I don't see how they can't have fixed it. You know, it must be.
If they haven't fixed it for you, then clearly there's no solution. Right?
Yeah, you're just bitter
Like,
about
it's like
Rockbox being a thing, I guess, pretty much.
yeah, or you just fundamentally disagree with that type enemy type, right?
Yeah.
A weak point based one where you get infected with something. Because all of the actual legitimate gripes I had and anyone really had, they've tackled head on. And I'm not sure whether or not they've been dealt with, but they've been tackled with. Like they've gone for it. I'm not sure whether or not they won the fight, but we'll see. But yeah, I know. I think the Switch was good. I look forward to it being a thing. I probably won't turn it off, mainly because I probably won't finish
You won't
the path.
be able to. You won't be able to.
No, I
Sure,
might be.
I think at this point you will
obviously-
before season 5. I think, won't you?
Yeah, if I had the update, I'd be playing it already. Like
Yeah.
I'm genuinely I like loaded up Deep Rock and I'm like I want to play it, but not right now.
It's just not. Yeah.
Like,
See, this is that's the thing about being a cult. You know, the way we are. It's kind of like well, just having the wait is frustrating, but then it's like not only did I not see a reason to play Deep Rock a couple weeks before it already, even more so right now. It's just like there's really no point playing the game at the moment because we can't play the game as it is at the moment. And that's not a criticism, by the way. This is like this is an inevitable thing.
It's not on.
You know,
not on Go shit.
It's not on Go shit. I did I feel like an idiot, but because I can't remember exactly what I said. I do remember sort of putting something in the on like the main Reddit post from Jacob, I think, about like it launching or the trailer or something, and I said something about the date. I can't remember what I said, but I know why it's the case. But I still, my point in the end was if there's any way they can explain the difference between when it's 2 weeks and when it's 1 week. That was what I wanted to know. But my original comment was worded really badly, and I just got everyone just explaining it to me as if I had no idea, including Anders. including, But I had to come in and say I just wanted to know if it was possible, if there's like a clear explanation for when it's different. Because 1 week is like nothing. That's why, and 2 weeks is horrible, but 1 week doesn't. It's like that's the difference. And I just wanted to know if there's anything behind that.
I genuinely think that they must have like published it a week earlier to Xbox, like for the season. Like I think that must have been what they did.
That is possible. I don't. We probably shouldn't be like guessing.
No, but I mean, otherwise, why wouldn't they have made it 1 week this time around? If it was up to them and they could do it like that, then
because this was probably a bit more down to the wire, right? In terms of
exactly, they had to release both at the same time, which means that we would then get the 2 week delay. But if they actually sent the for the season 4 earlier to Xbox, then a week of processing will be done, and then it's just a week again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much if it's necessarily a thing to give them credit for inherently, but I believe they did say they were aiming for mid-November, and they just hit mid-November, which just I guess that's something.
So how close to having it not be in November? It's on the final day of November.
Yeah, it's the final day of November. It's one day after the first Doctor Who special is out of this year. The Christmas specials, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to get this before then. Either way, good month overall. Good month for us. Anyway, I guess we could go through the specific stuff of the toggle, but not necessarily. Although, it's like the chance of encountering the phage outbreak become equal to other mission warnings. But something that I heard is that when you turn it off, it actually means the total amount of warnings in the game is actually less. But that makes sense when I think about it, actually. That's how it would be, because there's more than normal. Because there's like it's like an excess of lithophage outbreak warnings. That's the whole point, you know? There's always like 2 or 3 in the infected biomes. And that's like a lot more warnings than normal. But the thing I haven't seen is... And I guess it'd be a lot easier to see if I could just see it, but I don't know exactly... I haven't seen anyone say anything or show anything to do with having a lithophage outbreak warning just in general after turning the toggle off, which obviously they're there, but it almost feels like they're not. I don't know why, but obviously we can't really say much about that. I do want to talk about one thing it does, though, in terms of the changes made. Rockbox enemy waves will not spawn outside of the warnings and events. The events mention is weird because they didn't do that anyway. I think that's just the corruptor, though, and the corruptor does spawn the larvae. But apart from that, they removed the Rockbox waves, and I don't know how I feel about that necessarily. I think the decision makes perfect sense, but in regards to pleasing people, but I think once again it is maybe a confidence thing. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, you think about it, the Rivals never had like standard waves that were added, and it makes sense why. But that's the thing. It made sense for the Rockbox to have them to a certain extent. It's a different kind of faction. It's much easier. Like there's no stationary enemies. First of all, that's why you can make a swarm type for them. And having a new swarm type was interesting. So to have it essentially disappear is. Basically, I want a lot more of them, at least in the warning. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about that exactly.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, after season 4 ends, it would end up back in the pool, right? Because the Switch won't be for Rockbox, so the Rockbox will be in the pool again. So it's just for season 4, really. That if you turn the Switch off, you cold turkey Rockbox. Essentially, it's like they're gone, even in the ways you would want them to. But if you don't switch it on, then you're going to get more than you would want either way. So, I don't know. I think it's just the Switch is for the people that can't stand it, right? It's just, and they wouldn't ever want to see him again ever in a million years. And for those people, that kind of needs to occur. Not that, you bump into them that often anyway. It only works in like 3 game modes, right? So, it's not that valuable piece of content anyway because of the way that their sport wave system works.
That's actually that's a good point actually. It made mining expeditions a bit more interesting when it happened because
Yeah,
you would
one
get
of the few
you would
things.
keep getting them. What? No, that's how mining
Yeah,
expedition works.
it's mining expedition like something else and something else, right? It's like
I don't think it's something else and something
it.
else. I think it's just mining expedition and on-site refining. Because point
Hmm.
extraction should be able to do it, but point extraction can't. The only thing that point extraction can have is dreadnought spawn for some reason. Which is why people like so often encounter that first in a point extraction. Because that's the only type of alternate swarm it can have. So there you go.
Which is odd.
There's some deep insight. That's what you come here for. It's the kind of weird shit that I know about the game that most people don't. Like the fact that no, actually that one I think most people do know. It's the fact that in a dense biozone, when the normal just digging of the terrain is just wider than other biomes. But that's something that Snish mentioned in like his biome video, and it's like I know too much about this game. And it's like no, you don't. No, there's
I
nothing
didn't
wrong with
know that.
knowing a lot about a game you like. But yeah, the actual reductions, the actual like nerfs placed on Rockpuck's effects, quite a bit of points here. Just things that they did to make Rockpucks just less of a problem. It's less dangerous. What are you looking at?
Outside freedom.
Why don't you jump out the window then? And it's just they pretty much did everything, like reduced infection range when popping a boil, but they also they fixed it so it can stack like the close range thing. But before, like it felt like it almost felt intentional to me that it couldn't actually. There was almost like a threshold for the close range thing, but it wasn't as bad as it could be. But I think they probably just dialed it down so much that it doesn't matter that it can stack. I really get the impression that they've just nerfed the shit out of it. That's sort of
Yeah,
what I get. You know, shorten delay
because
before infection. They'll be they did literally everything. You know, like increase the rate at which it goes away, shorten the delay before it starts going away, made it build up slower. Like everything. It's just
yeah, like they have made getting rockpox so much harder to have. Well, you have rockpox, it's not that bad, and getting out of it being easier, right? It's like with the and this was on the bottom thing, you know, turning on a hold to escape, which from what I've read is longer than um doing it yourself, like pressing the buttons and all that jazz. But
the thing about the manual thing is that it's variable. You know, you can't exactly pin it down to an exact amount of time that it takes.
You can do it quicker.
Yeah,
if you're good at it, and it doesn't actually physically hurt you.
doesn't hurt
Which
me
you know,
personally. So
no, but there are people other than you that play this game, Harry, and they might have
you
issues with
sure?
hand stuff.
Are you sure?
Last I checked, yeah, I think they are.
There is something I didn't actually know was like that official. Oh, they fixed the immunity as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Obviously,
Sad face.
yeah. Shut up. I mean, come on. After everything else they did,
How many times did you even get it? Like ever?
maybe once. I don't remember. I don't remember
Yeah,
getting it, so I'd have to think
right. So
once
you
at
probably didn't.
most. I don't know why.
I had it like a minimum of
Must have
three
been
times. I'm pretty sure.
must have been a client thing.
No, I mean maybe, but it said what it causes it. It's when you get infected while you're downed. It seems to be what causes it.
Yeah.
Which obviously that occurred a lot more often to me than you, because boss code would get you up by then, or you wouldn't go down, kind of thing. Um,
Fixed a bug
but
that
yeah,
caused Dropbox exploders to not be feared by lithofoam. I didn't know they couldn't be. And honestly, that would be the funniest one to not have be feared by it. Honestly. And I guess that makes it the most useful one to have so you can fear it with the lithofoamer. But I don't know why that was a thing before. It's just like why it's always a question for me. Why is this what got affected by a bug? Like why is it it's so bizarre. Bugs are so weird. Bugs.
I mean, there's a chance they never added it
Yeah.
to it. I think that would be considered a bug.
Would it be considered a bug?
Yeah.
I mean, you
But,
could word it as just like fixed that they weren't feared by lithofoam instead of fixed a bug, and I think they would if it wasn't a bug. I think they would just say fixed this issue, instead of saying it was a
yeah.
bug. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, generally it seems like they've made Rockpox more than tolerable. I think they've probably done the Rivals treatment where they've probably overdone it, really, right? Like they've made it so easy. I mean, maybe not because of the way the status effect works. Like you'll get affected by it. Like that's just going to occur. And when it does, then it will be annoying. But um, yeah, it feels like they've got slapped with the Rivals. There's other things that feel more like it as well. But the fine, we've had enough of you complaining. We'll make it easy on you, babies. See you later. Like that
It's
kind of
still
like mindset.
it's just a weird notion that this has had to happen though twice. It's like, eh, it's just awkward. It's like
Yeah.
an awkward thing to think about. It's like, what's going on here? I'm not sure how I feel about this. The fact that this has happened twice now, basically the exact same thing, and I think I know why. It's basically just because it's really fucking difficult to make enemies to this game at this point. So they have to make ones that like really like distinct and distinguish themselves in terms of behavior and attacks and things like that, and it just throws people off. And that's because they already covered so much ground. To be honest, like genuinely, that's why you don't. That's why they don't need to add like a Glyphid Rammer, because they have multiple enemies that fulfill that role and probably also fulfill other roles at the same time. Like you could argue that the Shellback fulfills the role of a rammer and also the Septic Spreader, which they added. It's weird, and that's why it makes sense to me that these enemies are placed in bubbles, which is why I don't inherently think that they need to be nerfed that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, thing is I think they need to be what the majority of the player base would want them to be, right? I think ultimately, there are decisions you make as a game designer and team and so forth that I think matters more. Like what Rockpox is, its identity, that shit that, the player base can't change. But ultimately, if a vast majority of your player base absolutely despises the content you've added, you should change it. It is a moral duty as a game designer to do that, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
main issue most other game companies have. It's when they add something dog shit, the players complain, they disregard that and continue doing the dog shit things. That's that's the big sign saying, "Hey, dog shit company over here. Don't listen to the fans." All that stuff, right? I can name multiple examples, but I'm sure you can think of some anyway. And you being the audience as well, but but Ghost Ship, they're not quite like that. I mean, obviously they have their integrity and they won't bend the knee on everything. But when enough players cry out that they feel this is not right, unjust, and bad, they tend to address it. With the overclock grind addressed, rivals at the end addressed, and now Rockbox addressed, right? And maybe they compensate a little too heavy-handed. Like they like when they give up stuff to the players, they may give up a bit too much, right? Make things a little too easy on them. But
And I think I don't.
either
I
way,
think that's probably because they just don't want to have to. They don't want it to be an ongoing thing. They want to bring the hammer down and not have to, and and then have the nail be all the way in. Even if the nail's too far in, it means they don't have to hit it in anymore. At least maybe it's something to do with that. It's like I don't imagine them
they don't have
touching
the time
Rockbox
or
now.
energy to. Yeah, and they haven't touched rivals since either. Really, I mean, did they a little bit?
Was it like
Like
no, right? I'm pretty sure they didn't
I
at
think there
all.
was the caretaker room changed a little bit, right? That was
Oh well, that
something,
was
but
more
like
so. There was a little
generally,
bit of stuff to do with. Yeah, I mean, I think the industrial
industrial
sabotage.
sabotage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the rival
But
faction
as
as
far
much, is it?
as
It's like the enemy types.
as far as like the rivals themselves,
Yeah,
they just absolutely fucking bashed them around the head with a sledgehammer season 3, and they've not gotten back up since.
I don't think they're too
And they
weak.
probably won't ever. No, but I don't think they're. I don't know. I think they're fine, and I feel like Rockbox might be the same thing. But that's really like people aren't complaining about them nerfing the rock pox too hard, though, are they?
No.
That's not where they're complaining is. Um, I think that's probably is that next. By
Well,
any
I think we'll
chance?
start
Right,
with
shit.
the general stuff. It's just tweaks to enemy stats and behavior. The general improved septic spreader shot prediction, so it hits ceilings and other obstructions less often, which I didn't inherently expect them to, I guess, make it a little bit more competent. Actually, that's the only thing that actually changed about like its behavior as well. I mean, I saw someone say that the spreader got nerfed into the ground, and I'm just like, I'm not like, you sure? They technically made it
I mean,
better.
you're
They
probably
just added
referring
this
to
other
being
mechanic.
invulnerable,
I know, but
right? Like that does essentially turn it off in a kind of sort of way, but also not really. Like some
but
weapons are going to be amazing, some weapons are going to be unusable to shoot them down and stuff like that.
it means that the
It's a
septic
new
spreader
cool
is going to
mechanic.
become in my opinion, it should make it better at actually fulfilling its role. It's sort of basically just pestering you in a way that you can manage, but you can't always remove the problem either. I think this is going to make it being a mortar much more reasonable. Because it doesn't mean the fact that it's just
Yeah,
the fact that you can't actually hit
yeah.
it doesn't mean you can't stop it from being a problem.
You can disable it without killing it, which is something we advocated for. Not for the spreader, for the stingtail, but they added it to the spreader.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's good. Unfortunately for them, I am now gonna have to ask for a sludge pump overclock that you can shoot down with like your secondary, and it will drop
I
and like
mean,
a bigger thing or something.
shouldn't that just
Like
be like a base thing?
maybe base, but either way, like I'm sorry, go shit, but now you've added that feature, you're kind of gonna have to work it into the sludge pump. Um, sorry, not sorry. I expect that now. But yeah, no. I
Bitch.
mean, I think the one with the brain is no real thoughts on the spreader. It's an improvement. It makes him more interesting to fight, right? Like and then like engage with. So
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do anything else. They
yeah,
weren't like, oh, people don't like the season 4 enemies. Let's make them, just nerf everything about them. So no, I think they already knew the septic spread is like in terms of like a durability. It was already where it needed to be. Like in terms of how
yeah.
easy it was to
Everything
kill.
was damage, all that stuff. It was just how you like how effective is its attack, right? Where is it shooting the walls too much, and that's what that thing was,
Yeah.
or was it just too unstoppable once it had started going?
Yeah. They also they did something in this category that I think is quite similar to the electrocution thing. In fact, I'd say exactly the same, just on the other side of the fence, which is actually making the frost enemies do damage.
So I
You
didn't
didn't
notice
notice
that.
that? Well, I didn't actually
No.
notice the frost bomber didn't. I feel like maybe it did, but yeah, converted some of the frost bomber's projectile damage to ice damage, and yeah, the different Praetorian, the frost Praetorian, will do a little bit of damage, little bit.
No.
Perfect. I mean, come on, we can't complain. It's perfectly fine. It's not
No,
going to be as strong as the normal one. Even if they made it do a lot of damage, it still wouldn't be as strong because there's no damage over time. That's what makes the normal
it's
Praetorian so
pretty
deadly.
cool. It's a pretty cool indicator that this update it went back. You know what I mean? Like that's something that no one expected them to tackle. Like it's just a this has always been the case kind of edition, and they actually done it.
Yeah.
Like
So
they
and they did
actually
another one,
figured them out.
but they didn't do the the other. It was like there's the big one, and there's no sort of mention
Yeah,
of it, and I think we know what that
I
is.
guess they're still tackling it. The armor break overclocks, right?
But it's not the only example of them also looking further back than season 4 either. Some other like miscellaneous stuff. It might just be the one
Yeah.
thing actually, but still. Yeah. Anyway, we are onto the Stingtail now. I could just like read out this whole thing, and then that might be a good idea. I don't
Sure.
know. Increase the
Paint the
cooldown.
picture.
Increase the cooldown of the grab attack slightly. Added a significant cooldown after a successful grab attack. Reduced the range of the grab attack. Tweaked the base HP and added multiple damage weaknesses and resistances to improve breakpoints. I know they added explosive and electrocution weakness. I think that's in the trailer. Removed health scaling by player count, which is weird. Fixed horns not blocking damage, so that's technically a bit of a buff, but then also improved the collision on the mouth weak point, making it easier to hit. Made the glowy armor bits more glowy to improve visibility, and tweaked the spawn values to prevent too many of them at once. Okay, it doesn't sound insane. I think something that people said was it probably didn't need the cooldown increase aside from after a successful one. That's like when it should be a thing. But the fact that like it in general is like slower.
I think the thing with the Stingtail is, first of all, I find it annoying how many people they're doing the thing again. You know, how Deep Rock Galactic subreddit does, where they complain, and then people complain about them complaining, and then they complain about it, and they're doing that again, right? People are complaining about the Stingtail being nerfed too much, and now people are complaining about people complaining. But that, other than that being inherently annoying, and this being the source of it, I also find it that like they tackled every issue players had with the Stingtail essentially, right? It attacks too quick, it's too tanky, its weak points are too hard to hit. It's when it's like more than one of them, then it's like game over. Like all of these problems players had with them, they tackled all of them, which is good and all. But I really feel like you could have just tackled some of them, and it would have been done.
Yeah,
Right?
I honestly
Like
think
I feel
based
like if
on what's
you
being
got rid
done,
of two of these things, it would have been all right. Like
yeah, I think maybe the tankiness stuff is what should have maybe been retained. Because I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, the attack and the tankiness both need to be dialed down." But I think based on what's been seen, maybe making it more durable is the only thing that's going to make it not like a something just you can just ignore at this point. Because that's usually what people were saying. It's just nothing at the moment. And maybe persistence is what it needs. Like in terms of just lingering around, not inherently the persistence of the attack, but if it's like not much of a hazard in the first place, and it's also a very easy hazard to remove, you know, that's so maybe the tankiness can come back. I'm not sure though.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good
I don't
idea.
know. The fact that they made it like weaker tank wise in two ways as well, right? Like then they reduced its health based on player scaling, right? Like something like that. So its health is significantly lower on your own. But also they increased and made the weak points stronger, right? They made them bigger and stronger and more visible, some shit like that. So like they really doubled down on making it like die quicker, attack slower, less of them, and it's like, yeah, everyone was complaining about all of these things, but you only really needed to pick one or two, and it would have been in a good place. Like you probably didn't have to nerf
Yeah,
every facet
honestly,
of it.
I think just less of them would have done a lot of work on its own. Like genuinely. Wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Though? Like honestly, just making it that so there's less of them could have done a lot.
I
Um,
I don't know. Yeah and no. I think the thing is, if there were more of them, but they were weaker, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? You see what I mean? Like if like they nerf the attack and damage, so what if there's more of them? They suck more. So like three of them could still barely equal one original Stingtail. Like it's a matter of they nerfed every single thing when just nerfing one or two would have been enough. And I think that's the main issue. Not that it's a huge issue that it got nerfed and heavily. I think people prefer the Stingtail being nerfed into oblivion than being a oppressive force of nature. But it doesn't feel good right now, right? Knowing that there was like a valuable enemy that like changed the way you would play the game because of how big of a threat it is now like been neutered into like being something you would ignore. Like it feels bad now, but it'll probably feel better long run. But it just means that eventually, I think they should come back to buff it. I think there is a single area they should buff again. Like make it tanky, sure, or make it like really weak, but like the pulling in is quicker again, sure. But like don't buff them all, or don't nerf them all. Just pick one and spec it into it. Um, Maybe numbers, because I don't know, fun. Numbers are fun, but yeah, yeah,
I mean, yeah, I think you're just kind of just right. I don't know. This is one we're gonna have to experience and then tell you what we think. I guess it could change. I don't know. It could change in the next few weeks. I don't know how long they're sort of gonna be monitoring this, but I think in
we
terms of
see.
like actual sort of changes that need to be made, um, like just to make sure that the maintenance update is actually done its job. I think they're gonna always be on a certain level of standby to be able to make certain small changes. I think. I don't think that's going to go away. As in, I don't know what they're actually doing, but my imagination tells me they're probably allowing about like at least a week, maybe even two, of being pretty like focused on it. Maybe I don't know. But
Yeah, and
I
obviously
think
it's still
anything
just
that
half of
really
the
needs
team
to be
being focused
done,
on it.
like if it introduces like really bad bugs, that's still stuff they can fix. Like they fix like things that where things have like introduced new like crash bugs, things that make things crash. Like that's kind of thing. They're obviously still
Yeah.
going to get to. Yeah, I don't. But the Stingtail
Which is
itself, I don't know
positive
because the Stingtail, it's not
of
going to
the
like.
Xbox feeling.
Yeah, again, there is a little bit. Yeah, well, obviously, but then the Stingtail thing is like, is that the kind of thing that they would change between now and then? You know, would they do anything to it, or would they wait till the next update? I don't know at this point. I mean, because it's not that kind of issue. You know, it's not really damaging people's experience that much. It's just sort of become a you know, and like a non-issue, but in a way that was arguably too far. But it's like, is that the kind of thing that becomes a priority to fix? I don't know how they would see that. I would say probably not. That probably isn't a priority just because they made something too weak. You know, yeah. But in terms of in the vein of making things weaker, a couple enemies who were previously immune to a certain status effect are no longer immune. Well, yeah, we already talked about the execution thing, but still, relief. So much relief.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it's interesting how obviously elimination's big because it's a whole mission type, but it was still the combination of just literally just the dreadnoughts and the oppressor was enough to make it feel like I shouldn't take electrocution in certain, like, a lot of the time. It made it feel bad to make builds for the stubby because it's just like, if I come across like the enemies with like the most health, basically, I'm weaker against them.
You will do the least.
Yeah, and they already have the most health. That's not because I can't do the electrocution. They're already stronger. And yeah, it's gonna. I think the only thing they said is that the slowdown effect isn't as strong, but I mean that makes perfect sense. I think the damage over time is still intact, but the damage over time isn't inherently the point of electrocution.
Being electrocuted.
Yeah,
right?
and then
So
obviously that's going to
Traceable
be a
was
little bit
viable.
more damage, but the main thing is going to be damage bonuses from that. That's the main thing, really, I think, especially against dreadnoughts. Being able to gain electric damage bonuses without IFGs, basically, against these enemies is going to be the most valuable thing. And that's going to change. I think elimination is going to change a fair amount. There's going to be a new wave of builds for elimination that actually use electricity now, and that's going to be really interesting to see. I will certainly try my hand at that. Tyler's searching for
Cat
the
stole
answer.
something out of my bin.
I found a mouse in the bin yesterday. The main
Nice.
bin in the kitchen. Yeah, it was just sitting on top of the bin, and then it ran away. Oh, I don't know what what.
It was a bit.
Great.
Yeah, they brought tinfoil into my room and tore it to pieces again on my floor.
It's great. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
yeah. But any more? Yeah, there's an enemies thing, right? Still, we got
What?
Corruptor.
What about him?
They made him better.
I mean,
like a better
I
boss
think
fight,
the main thing
specifically.
is probably just going to be the movement speed. Because frankly, they said they improved like the telegraphing of the attacks. I never really had a problem with the telegraphing, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I probably only fought him like 7 times, so I can't really say much.
Well, like the spike attack, where it's like a linear spike attack, a bit like the Lacerators one. They had like the tell now shows the direction. I mean, the direction's just always you, so just move. I'm not.
Yeah.
I wasn't too much of a problem. I think the visibility of the stomp attack, like I think this is actually kind of a problem they have in general. It's like the radius attacks not always being that well communicated in terms of how far away you need to be.
Yeah,
because
with the color, it's worse because like they normally use particles, but the Corruptor is like a particle heavy guy. Like he's got rock particles everywhere.
Yeah.
So like when they add more particles, it's like, well, I can't fucking tell what the hell you want me to do.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Sure.
You've just done nothing. but I guess they've improved that. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think I like the way that they tackled him, right? Because they didn't make him easier; they just made him a better boss fight, right? Like that's those things that they buffed is like clear, concise stuff, and then the less running away like a little bitch, makes it a little bit more
Yeah, I
manageable.
mean, you're also going
Um,
to a lot of people are also going to encounter it a lot less though from now on.
yeah, which is another reason why I think it's like don't just inherently switch it all off. I think that'd be unfair at this point. Um, they've improved the rock box. Give it a try first,
Yeah,
which is what the
well, that's the
people that
thing. I
aren't
mean,
at level
you're
100 are
not going
going
to
to
have a
do.
choice, but I don't think we're going to turn it off straight away. I mean, well, obviously, I'm probably
I
going to
mean,
be the
I'm
kind of
still
guy
going to
who
wonder.
switches.
I'm still wondering what's going to happen. I mean, I guess I'll have it on, you'll have it off. We do the same mission, right? But you would have not have Rockbox, and I would have Rockbox on. But obviously, I probably wouldn't have Rockbox in it. It's just gonna be odd. I just still don't. I don't like. I feel like I'm overthinking it because nobody else is talking about how crazy it is that there's going to be essentially two new biomes that are like different. They have like the
Well,
same objectives in them, right? But it's just that like all of those missions that do and don't have Rockbox on them are still going to be technically different, right? Because if you have the Rockbox biomes on, then obviously a lot of them that don't have a lot of them that have the Rockbox Life of Age Outbreak will not have that if you turn it off. But also the ones that don't have Life of Age Outbreak in the thing with the thingy on would have a higher chance of the events, both of which would not be the case if you turn it off. So like those are different missions statistically. Like, you've not got the same chances of things, even if it's not a Life of Age. So, like it is essentially going to be two different biomes. Um, like being done, or like it's the same biome, but there's two layers to them, and it's I don't know. I feel like I'm fucking crazy
well,
that nobody else is like.
if you're confused about the logistics, what like the mission map looks like, it's dictated by the host when it comes on a lobby basis. So if you
Yeah,
what
but
you're going to
like
see if your host has it toggled off, you're going to see what they see. Even if your toggle is still on, or well, yeah, or I
yeah,
forget,
yeah, but like
you're still in
it's not
season 4 mode. They're not. You're going to see the
it's not just
non-season 4 version.
it's the possible amount of games being able to, like possible different missions to be played at once has gone up exponentially. Like I don't know the set number. You may have not paid any attention to them, but I'm gonna go with like 50. That feels way too high. There's 30 missions, right, spread across the available biomes, varying missions, so on and so forth. And with the Rockbox thingy on, like 10 of those missions were always, in the two biomes, and they were life of age or not life of age, but higher thingy chance. So like of the 30, 10 of them were thingy like life of age, but it was still 30 missions. Now there is going to be a theoretical 40 missions total. It's gone up by another 10 because there's two sets of those two biomes.
Well, I
Which
mean, I think Tyler, I think the reason why no one's talking about it is because what does that even mean? What does that even...
it means if they can theoretically have more than the available missions available, then they can start adding some more fucking biomes in the pool. 4 biomes are unavailable at any given moment. That's bullshit. If they can have more missions available in more different biomes, then they should. And this Life of Age duplication glitch on available
Duplication
missions,
glitch.
um,
Sorry.
it is essentially them saying that because basically if if every um like every person picked one game mode each on the map, then there would be like 30 missions, right? And they'd have to load 30 different game modes or like get 30 different missions. But now with the new layer on top, they would have to pick 40 for the people that switched it on and off, um, which will affect those biomes. And so if they can have more missions up at one time, what's stopping them from bringing back more biomes? Is my point.
Yeah, okay, I see it. I see what you're saying, and I kind of want. Well, I mean, I think I agree with that anyway. There should be more biomes available. Even if it meant reducing the amount of missions available in total, I think people would rather have more biomes available, right?
Yeah.
I think that
'Cause I mean,
was
what
probably the
it's like
consensus.
4 biomes inactive, and then it's like how many active? Like
The
6
rest,
or some bullshit.
yeah,
Yeah, the rest, and it's like that's almost half. It feels like almost half of the biomes are unavailable, which sucks. Like that's not great. And so I always assumed that they could only ever have a limited amount of missions up. Because obviously when they added 2 new biomes, they still continued. They just turned off 2 more biomes, right? It became 4 off instead of 2. So I just assumed, oh, it can only ever have this amount of missions available, and therefore this only a certain amount of biomes. But it seems like they can have more because of this new life of age stacking. Um, so all I'm saying is I need an explanation, but first I need to be able to actually put it into words, um,
yeah.
and that's my current
That would
conundrum.
that would help
Um,
if you actually knew what you
yeah,
were saying.
I know what I'm saying. I just can't say it. Um, yeah. Where did we? What was this?
What?
Let's move on from all that. Now we're on to weapon
Oh
balancing,
my,
right?
yeah, we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah, baby.
No, I mean it's all
This
good.
is going to be the most difficult thing to talk about without having played it. I would say, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't even know if the changes they made are good or bad, other than whatever people have said, and other people can be often very, very wrong. Um, so, hooray! Harry, I can see that you're moving. You're not sitting completely still.
Why would I want to do that? Yeah. Okay. Weapon tweaks. I mean, like I said, it is fairly concentrated, like mostly just the 2 weapons. But obviously we have the electrocution change that's going to affect a lot of things, including the first one that is mentioned, which is the breach cutter high voltage crossover. Very simple. Extended the duration of the electrocution effect from 4 seconds to 5 seconds. But yeah, I mean it's going to do more damage. That means though, and obviously this overclock can now be used in eliminations. So that's great. Huzzah! I mean, it makes it an easy way to electrocute dreadnoughts for like an executioner thing, to use executioner on them, where because that means you can take the tier 5 damage on the smart rifle instead of the tier 5 electrocution thing. As in, you wouldn't have done that anyway for dreadnoughts because it wouldn't work, but now you can because you couldn't set them on fire or electrocute the dreadnoughts. But now we can electrocute them.
Yeah.
Still can't set them on fire. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think. But we can electrocute them
I
now.
think they seem to be pretty sold on that.
Yeah.
Oh my!
But the oppressor was also one. Well,
What Schmuckle just commented on the
hold on.
thingy video. What's that?
We're not doing comments.
I know.
Depends on what it says. If it's like, I don't know, he says, oh, I just saw someone get nuked or something.
He's just talked about everything.
Well, that's great. You'll be the star of the show next time on Schmoggle.
Yeah.
Put the phone down.
Yeah, so
all right, I'll fucking kill you. Put the fucking phone away.
Well, because if I don't get rid of the notification, then my phone just goes like every minute or two, and I can't stand that. So I got rid of the notification by clicking on it. No.
But yeah, this is immediately going to generate a build, like an electric damage bonus build for engineer. I'm gonna take breach cutter, high voltage crossover, and executioner.
Yeah.
In general, it's going to be better than Inferno for that because now I can do it to oppressors as well. And I don't have to like try, because like Inferno, oppressors, it's not 100% reliable even to set them on fire because of how much they resist fire. So that's just quite strong actually. When I think about it, it's more than just it's more than just buffing. That it didn't even need to be buffed for me to actually have like attempted this, but it's good that it has been. I think it was already sort of lacking behind in damage, but you know, when it can give another weapon
Weird
damage bonuses,
how much they are like slightly buffing the breach cutter. Obviously they did more as well, but like last season 4 we had the slight spinning death buff, like +1 ammo, wasn't it? And yet it made it a lot better.
no, it's like
Now it's
+2 or
like
3 actually. It was like yeah, it was.
Oh, well, is that stacked with the other stuff?
I think
like,
it's gone
with
from
the other
10
ammo?
up to 12 max ammo spinning death.
But like still, it's like a bit more ammo, and it becomes like tons better. This will have like a second more, and it's like might be strong as hell because of other stuff as well.
But I do think this is the one that got stronger out of the two. Because the other one's roll control, and I'm still surprised it didn't go up in category, but it's not like, I don't know. So they significantly increased the spin rate, which people have actually noted is just kind of not really
increase in damage, right?
Not necessarily, actually.
No, from what I've seen, it's like because it just hits less often, then it kind of like doesn't really like kill things as quickly and easily, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I think is not the point, right? I think the point of roll control is now the most flexible breach cutter, right? Like wherever the enemies are, you can kind of send it their way. Is the breach cutter?
Well, yeah. I mean, they added a lifetime bonus. I have to see how much that is, but obviously it makes sense. I think giving it more range makes sense. The idea is this definitely strikes me as a long range thing, so that you can control it and it lasts longer, so you can like hit things that are on the other side of the room and what have you. Could actually be quite good in Industrial Sabotage, like in the Caretaker fight. Genuinely, you could steer it through multiple appendages and like vents at the same time.
Because it doesn't like I really expected some nerfs, but obviously it's still a clean, even though it does tons. So just make it as good as you can base.
And also, so you can steer it while holding down the trigger. But when you release the trigger, you lose guidance.
Yeah,
it's manual guidance cut off, Tyler. Baby. It's manual guidance
cut off. Yeah.
What the fuck? And I thought this was going to be like the same thing that they did for season 4. Take one and like replace it with like an unstable or something. Well, actually, they took the clean that they got rid of last time and just added those mechanics to another clean. Very weird, very bizarre.
Now clean squared, but yeah, no. I mean, first of all, I feel like just zooming out a little bit, they must think the breach cutter's weak.
Right? A little bit. Well, no, the breach cutter's like
3 buffs now.
Yeah,
right? They haven't touched the
PGL. Who touched the
PGL? I think they do a little bit for the thing. No, they mostly didn't. Though.
I think the shard diffractor is like literally, honestly, and this is why nothing's going to change about the shard diffractor. Because in my opinion, the only thing that needs to be buffed about the shard diffractor is overdrive booster, and that means nothing's going to change because everyone loves overdrive booster. Genuinely, shard diffractor is actually really good. It's really balanced.
Yeah, they fucking
great. I don't realize how good it actually is sometimes. Like genuinely,
but they genuinely must seem to kind of think that the breach cutter was the weakest, but also not by a lot, considering, as mentioned, the buffs were +2 ammo, +1 second of like electric duration, and like now this clean moves it better, right? Like it is strange how tiny these buffs are, yet how frequent they are, and it's odd, but not unappreciated. I love the fucking breach cutter. It's probably my favorite engineer secondary. It just doesn't mean much.
Hold on, I do realize something that they did to roll control that I don't like. I just realized it now. Releasing the trigger stops the rotation. No, it doesn't stop the rotation. It just stops the control. The point of roll control originally was that it would stop rolling when you release the trigger, so you can have a set so you can have a set angle, and that would help you hit certain things. I would use that. You would either like, that's quite useful for Mactera. I would always have it be like vertical, like a spitballer and certain things like that. And now it just doesn't do that now, and I don't see the point. I feel like the point should be it's like you have
I think
control
that
over
is
it
actually
and it spin. But
it
the
is
thing is, it probably spins so
no.
fast now that you can't really have much control over when it
I
stops anyway.
genuinely, I think that is that is like because it's a lot for a clean, but I actually think that is kind of the negative as well. Like it is the fact that
Yeah, maybe.
it's
Yeah.
kind of it's like you will aim at it, but like it won't necessarily hit it unless it's dead center, right? Like it's like anything that isn't dead center will get hit less than normal, less than the old roll control, which I don't know. I think it's interesting, and it seems like they're going to keep this up, right? Like it really
I hope
feels
so.
like
I mean, yeah, I would
this
assume.
is this is just something they're going to keep
I
doing.
assume Return
Like
to Senders next. I assume.
maybe if they're going to keep running on that reach got a hill, then yeah, maybe. But no, yeah, I don't know. I look forward to using it.
I actually do as well. I
The
mean, I
Breach
look
got
forward to high voltage crossover more, frankly. Um,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not too happy that people are going to be using roll control now. It was always good. Bastards. You weren't there when we needed you, and now look what happens. So the only Scout direct change was to shape shells for the boomstick, the accuracy one, and
Yeah.
it's technically a buff. It says they tightened up the horizontal spread, so now the grouping is symmetrical. I don't know what that means. What are you doing?
Shadow.
Does it mean it like literally is like a grid of bullets now? I don't know what it's suggesting here. And apparently the crosshair now changes as well, but it already did change. The crosshair got like really tight with shaped shells. Yeah, I don't know what this even is. Like a tiny buff, but it might just be completely neutral. And frankly, the fact that they touched it and didn't buff it is kind of annoying. Like it needs like I still think it should have like a weak point bonus or something. Because
Yeah, although
it's just falling behind
so
still.
it makes sense that this is what they touched of the boomstick because, as mentioned, I mean, like with double barrel being a huge thing, like it's fucking flying one special powder, double barrel, and like maybe jumbo shells. If people still use jumbo shells,
I think
I'm
so.
really not sure on that.
I think because it's like you do have more ammo than with double barrel. Actually, a lot
Yeah,
more, I
it's
guess, when you
slightly
think
more
about it,
flexible, right?
and it's more flexible in terms of range and things like that. So, yeah, I think it still exists.
Yeah. So it's like if they're gonna heighten up any part of the weapon to become a peak, it would be shape shells.
Yeah, but if you want it to be a peak, it needs to be like actually really good at long range, and I think it needs like a weak point thing to sort of drill that in.
Well, that weak
Possibly.
point would make it good at long range. That's that those two are not the same thing.
I know.
But yeah, maybe. But they sort of need to buff it in some way, shape, or form. Why are you doing it again?
Whoa! Smart rifle based weapon traits reduce the manual rate of fire.
Didn't they? They it seemed like they forgot to add the thingy that they added in season 4.
They fixed it. So what it actually was is they the smart rifle always had a higher hip fire rate or hit rate of fire than it was supposed to have because they didn't an input buffer wasn't a thing in Deep Rock when they added the smart rifle. It's just like just jack it up, but now it's like actually consistent. We're going to reduce it. So I'd say it's probably just completely neutral. It might have a small effect on hip. I don't know if it's going to make hip fire builds exist. Probably not.
When I was reading it, I my heart started fluttering. I'm like, they remember the normal shot, like Loki.
What
like,
it needs to do with that?
Maybe. Yeah, but it's not an actual like. I thought with them starting to touch it, I thought, well, maybe they're gonna like make it a thing and not a thing at all in any way, shape, or form. Like, why would you ever do that? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you shoot it without
stupid
it?
boy?
Yeah.
You fool! How could you be so foolish to expect something like that?
Either way, obviously, that's not the engineer primary they gave the most shit about.
Well, that's actually not next in the list.
The Warthog.
They didn't touch the Warthog at all. Yeah,
Warthog
but that's sort of
flawless.
that to me that's just a symptom of this update wasn't inherently supposed to be about weapon balancing anyway. So I'm still pretty happy with how much they did, or even if it was fairly concentrated, especially with the execution change and sort of those kind of things. Like seriously, so it's still more than I was expecting. So, and yeah, so in the actual post, it's not the stubby next, but I guess I'd rather do the stubby first, to be honest, than the coil gun.
Yeah,
I'd rather just drop down to the stubby. I mean, they both arguably the coil gun got more.
yeah. Which was
Almost not
heavily
arguably.
unexpected.
It's only because of I think it's only because of the change to necrothermal catalyst though. Because otherwise it would be the same in that there's like 2 new upgrades for the coil gun, but they changed necrothermal catalyst so much that they had to replace it basically.
Yeah.
And I think what that is, it's like they didn't necessarily want to do that, but they literally had to, because to make the changes that they did, they had to make it a new mod, basically. So the game was just like, or the code was just like, they're gonna have to buy this again, you know. So fine, okay, fine. Even though it still does mostly the same thing, it's just yeah. But yeah, the stubby got I would say these both got overhauled, but frankly, when it comes to the base traits, the coil gun got closer to being reworked. But yeah, I never thought about it. I don't know why we didn't think about it much. We were kind of like, oh, they're probably gonna buff the stubby and maybe the Zukovs. But
Yeah.
the coil gun definitely needed something. It definitely did.
No, I think that's why the coil gun was so left behind that we forgot about it.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm glad they've done what they've done. To me, it looks great. But yeah, the stubby, obviously considered the weakest engineered primary, and I think that is
the weakest weapon in the game.
You sure?
Yep. Because engineered primaries are kind of like Dreader secondaries, kind of weak on purpose. To compensate for the powerful other option. So
yeah,
if you're the weakest version of one of them, like the weakest set of primaries, you're the weakest primary of them, then yeah, it didn't look too good. But now,
to be honest, it's really only a direct buff to like turret arc. Actually, like it's really just changing stuff around mostly. Like reduce the base recoil, but also reduce the bonus of the recoil upgrades. Like so, it's just the same basically. It means you can more easily justify not taking recoil, but you can more easily justify taking even more fire rate with Ian Refire Booster or something, I guess. And then they increased the bonus of the 2 damage upgrades, but then they reduced the bonus of the weak point bonus and the electrocution damage bonus upgrades. So it's just like, so it's basically equaled out again.
Damage.
Yeah, I think you will be able to achieve more direct damage than before, even with the small nerf to the weak point thing, though. Even if it's just 1 per damage upgrade.
There was a comment that talked about it. Apparently, they didn't notice a huge difference.
Fucking hell. I think the best base change is probably just adding the armor breaking upgrade. I've always wanted that for the stubby, and I think that's gonna come up on a lot of builds. I think probably mostly the turret builds, to be honest, though. Because that's just something you can do now. A little bit of support thing you can do. You can strip enemies' armor as well. And yeah, I honestly, I don't always take armor breaking upgrades, but I think every weapon should have one.
I do. Yeah. Except the ones where it doesn't work, then they shouldn't get one.
No, not at all. Yeah, but then they added an accuracy upgrade in tier 5. Beg your pardon?
Yeah.
And I think the point of that is, by the way, a little bit of like now single target build is going to be a bit more viable with you can get more damage and with the electrocution for like dreadnoughts and oppressors. But also, I think it's something to do with the turrets as well, because for some reason they felt the need to buff both turret overclocks, and I guess more accuracy means you can hit the turrets better, and you won't need electric arc as much if you're focusing on the turrets, I guess.
Stubby was the weapon that I struggled the most with recoil. That is the case. It's still not that bad because recoil's not really a thing in Deep Rock. Like it's not something you have to really keep in mind, but like stubby was something where the most I was fighting it to hit where I wanted it to go. Um, and I guess they knew that, and enough other people struggled with that. So if you do struggle with it, it seems like you get a lot more accuracy. And what is the accuracy mod? It's just more like less recoil, right? Like what?
I
It's not
think
something special, is it?
it's spread. It would be right, not
Right,
recoil. It's minus 60% spread.
like the flare
It
of
could be
the
recoil
hit.
as well. Sometimes they are. That's the thing. Sometimes accuracy mods are both spread and recoil. So, um, it could be. It could be. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Don't fucking yawn on my show.
Your show. Yeah. So all in all, not that we've used the stubby, that is the next step. But I would be surprised if this is it for the stubby.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's gotten much better. And yeah, it's like, would you consider it a full? It's not. Is it to the same level of the Tabata? I mean, there's an equal amount of changes if you include the number of points for the overclocks. That are, like just in terms of the amount of bullet points.
Yeah.
It's more than the
I mean, obviously,
Sabata,
yeah.
but
I mean, because they did change the two turret overclocks a fair amount, right? I mean, it was mostly visual and hit less friendly fire stuff. Like quality of life changes
yes.
mostly to those two overclocks.
In my
right?
opinion, the biggest misstep
But
is adding.
still.
Is honestly the biggest misstep is adding not adding accuracy to tier 5 necessarily, but not replacing the magazine size one in tier 5 with some. I think something the stubby needed at least because the Sabata got the stubby got what armor breaking and accuracy. The Sabata got 2-round burst and whatever the fuck. Well, it got penetration as well, and it got whatever the fuck the corrosive catalyst thing is, right?
Yeah.
You need to. I feel like they need to add at least one interesting upgrade somewhere, and it should have been tier 5. That's I feel like is a bit of a misstep that they didn't do that, in my opinion. The fact they did make a lot of changes to the stubby, but they didn't add something interesting to it that wasn't there before. And it could have come in the form of reworking one of the cleans as well, given that no one uses them. So, and the fact that they weren't touched either, it's just a little bit weird.
Yeah, it's just that. I think even if it actually does, by some miracle, come out of this actually viable, like if that best case scenario occurs and it becomes good, because looking at these things, it's not going to become preferable, right? Like I don't see anything about the stubby that would shoot it into becoming good, like better than the smart rifle or warthog. But if it becomes not an embarrassment to use, then I think that's the best case scenario here. But even then, it's probably going to need to be touched again. Like I don't think they went as hard as they probably could have and should have for the stubby. I mean, considering we were thinking about a general overhaul, like harder than this. But yeah, not not that until we used it we can say anything inherently. But I think we were expecting more for the stubby specifically, right? Like if that was literally something that they were priding themselves on the trailer is how much they specifically mentioned the stubby, which kind of got people's hopes up and like, oh, they heard us on the stubby, they're going to make some serious changes, and these don't really feel like serious changes. Like, I don't quality of life for the turret overclocks, armor breaking. That's about it, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they felt the need to remove damage fall off on EM discharge though. That was a bit weird. The range indicator is kind of cool, and that's for both of them actually.
Yeah, I think this is good, but I wouldn't inherently associate those things with a stubby buff because it doesn't make them stronger. It just makes them nicer to use.
Yeah, turret arc. I think the friendly fire and stuff in turret arc is actually going to be quite good, mainly for yourself because that's been pretty annoying sometimes, and also increasing like the trigger size. Because like, for turret arc, this is actually a bit more of a buff, I think, though. Even though it's quality of life stuff, like being able to see like how far you can place a turret, like you're never going to like fuck up in that way. And that's like that's would be so terrible to happen if you're trying to use turret arc, which is already kind of weird to begin with. But then you place the turrets too far away. It's not going to happen now. And there was that little thing they
Yeah, I
did
don't know.
though. The short tail. I don't know if it's meant to be trail, but I think it might actually meant to be tail. Like I think it's like slight. I basically think it's like slightly wider. Basically, what it's saying. It just says it can do a bit more damage to enemies that manage to quickly go through the arc or something. I don't know. It's like something, a little bit of actual.
I think it just lingers longer, right? The effects of it's going to linger a bit longer on enemies that walk through it and get through it. At least that's how I read it. But yeah, it was odd that they doubled down on the turret things. Really, I mean, considering turret EM discharge is already like the thing to use with the stubby, it's weird that they doubled down on that.
Well, I said in the patch notes video, I don't think this change to EM discharge is going to make that inherently more dominant than it already is. It's still going to improve the experience of using it, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think this has brought that overclock even further up necessarily. But I don't think it's going to, be surpassed either. I don't think.
Yeah, it's odd, very unexpected, and slightly underwhelming. To be honest with you.
Yeah, but what it is. But I didn't expect them to do the other thing they did at all, frankly. So
no.
I'm looking at it, and I think everything here looks just great to me. And I'm still, obviously, it's really difficult because I haven't used it, but I can't see how this isn't like way better in every way because it just sounds it.
This is the coil gun, right?
And we're talking about the coil gun, of course, which is. I don't know. I mean, to an extent, I could have called it my favorite gunner secondary anyway. Like maybe. I'm not like a. I'm not a bulldog lover. I don't hate the Burt.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. It's part of my. It's literally part of my favorite build, like in the game.
You hate it.
I hate the Burt. Okay.
See, he knew it.
Fucking bitch.
But yeah. I look forward to using the coil gun with all these buffs. I won't.
What?
That's all I'm gonna say on it. Is I still don't think I'm gonna try it out. Hell, even the stubby I might not. Like these are just two weapons that I couldn't care less about. Generally.
What's the point? That's the point.
Yeah, I guess, but it wasn't just about them being weak. Especially considering the coil gun, you couldn't really say that, right? Like, apparently you found a secret super strong build. There's Hellfire, which is a very obvious strong build. There's Mole, which is not a strong build but can be broken. Like, there's all but Reatomizer, and they didn't fucking touch Reatomizer. Like, that's still there, right?
I saw someone like they made like a demonstration in the sandbox mods. Like, look how good Reatomizer is now because they used it with Necrothermal Catalyst. And they basically just spawned like 100 slashers in the sandbox room, and they were all standing still. And I was just like, I had to just get in there. I had to just say, yeah, this is cool, but bro, you're in a box room and they're literally not moving. Like, this is not realistic. This is not a realistic situation, even slightly. This does not prove that Reatomize was good. It might be. I don't know, but I think. Everything that was already good has gotten. No, hold on, because Hellfire is neutral / nerfed, actually. So, but there were some things that weren't good before that I think are going to just get better or get good. Get good, scrub. I think the first point though is kind of nothing. It says removed randomness from the trail damage to get more consistency. Okay, sure. Whatever, but then they increased the bonus radius of the tier 5 upgrade, so you can have it be even wider. But obviously, the thing about that is the ultramagnetic coils thing, I was always just using electric trail anyway, and it kind of relied on that for the slowdown. This is really just to keep Hellfire, like, so you can still have original Hellfire. That's pretty much all it is. But that's still good. But it's the next point that really takes the cake, I guess. Made it so the base trail effect can now stack. Are you sure?
I don't know what that means.
the trail damage can stack.
Right. Well, they can get hit more than once if they're in the trail.
Well, it's going to do damage based on how many trails an enemy's being affected by.
Right.
That's crazy.
Okay.
You can see why the effect that would have on all of it, but ultra-magnetic coils as well. Because that build I had, it was amazing, but it wasn't inherently that coil gun wasn't inherently great against dreadnoughts. But now I can electrocute the dreadnoughts, and I have a stacking damage as well from the trail. That's honestly the best change here for me, by far. It's actually, I think it's going to be way better than people realize, and people are just like, oh, Hellfire's didn't change. Coil gun's still bad. I am so convinced it's so much better than it was, and I know I actually can't say that, but I am saying it. I'm just saying it. I think this is going to be so much stronger. And then obviously there's Overcharger, which is the upgrade that let you get more direct damage by charging it over.
Got, Giga buff, didn't it?
Yeah. It says increase the maximum damage bonus from 32 to 100. And this is where the new build's going to come from, by the way. I'll get to it once we get to that overclock. But then, and then Necrothermal Catalyst. So they added a damage bonus against burning targets for Necrothermal Catalyst, which is already going to do a lot. That's something I already thought it should do. And I think based on what they've done here, it's going to become I don't know if competitor is the right word. I don't know if it will ever be actually stronger, but it's definitely going to be an alternative to volatile bullets now, for sure. So they also increased the radius of the explosion from 4 meters to 6 meters, but they reduced the explosion damage, but they changed it to pure fire damage. So it sets enemies on fire better. I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely gotten stronger though, especially with bonus damage to burning enemies. That's probably the biggest thing. Yay. Go off Necrothermal Catalyst. It kind of got, I'd argue it got reworked. And then they did a bunch of weird shit, like replaced the reload speed, the tier 2 reload speed with the tier 1 recharge speed, which means you can't pair the recharge speed or the charge speed with Overcharger, and doing that made you could get even more damage out of Overcharger, but obviously they buffed Overcharger, so it's not too bad. And then in the tier 1, they replaced the charge speed upgrade with a new trail duration upgrade, which is very good for me as well. Very good stuff. So yeah, that's actually, and not only is it obviously getting stronger, it's also just more interesting changes made to this in the stubby for me, much more.
Yeah.
So I am beyond excited to just get my rubby little mitts on this gun and actually prove to everyone how good it always. No, I'm not sure. Wait,
it's difficult to prove that now.
I didn't realize you were cat. Is that cat? Is that
what?
What is that? What are you touching?
My knee.
Oh, your knee.
Stupid.
Are you fucking Hasbulla?
What?
Did you see that video of Hasbulla punching his cat?
No.
Like hitting his cat. Stupid. I mean, I heard a very compelling argument is that, well, to him, it's literally like a wild beast. It's like a tiger. So, can't blame him, really.
We should put Hasbulla down because he is essentially a wild animal as well.
Okay, okay. I mean, fucking hell. Right, coil gun. So this is actually one of the first things that I saw before I actually read the patch notes. I was on Discord at the time, like waiting for them to drop because I knew they would drop on there before Steam, and I just saw people discussing it because the update was out. And people actually got the update and looked at the patch notes in game before they were put out, before they were published. And it's like Hellfire nerf, and it's like okay, let's have a look. So I scroll down, I find the patch notes, I scroll down to the core gun, I see that, oh, they did, that's not the most important thing at all. It's not. So they were like, Hellfire, what about everything else that they did to the core gun? And the fact that, so with Hellfire, what they did, they removed the trail with bonus. But obviously, like I've explained, you can still get the same original radius by taking the upgrade in tier 5. The only difference is that the electric version is nerfed. and I already thought that the wider trail version was better anyway. So coil gun, well, Hellfire is it's neutral slash nerfed. There's sort of two versions of it. One of them got nerfed, one of them didn't change. So that's kind of weird.
Well, that's not. You can't. Can you? You can't. Can you say that? So
yes,
like if you pick the area bonus thing now, it's like it's still smaller than when you picked the area bonus before this update.
No, because the area bonus upgrade got buffed. To do the same amount, basically. So I think I need so the upgrade, it's gone from plus 0.5 meters to plus 1 meter. So it's 0.5 more than it used to be. And hold on, I'm gonna have to go full screen for this. Gunner, secondary, coil gun, Hellfire adds, yeah. So I actually got confused at first. I was like, hold on, how is it not the same? But it is, because if you pick Hellfire, it goes up to 1.3, and then you add the thing and it goes up to 1.8. It's confusing because Hellfire technically adds 1 meter. Hold on a minute, I actually need to figure this out, because I might actually be wrong. I might be wrong. I remember like thinking about it and thinking, hold on, it's the same, but then it's like maybe it's not. Hellfire, but then you add plus 1 and plus 0.5. Yeah, it is the same. It's the same. It doesn't feel like it should be, based on what the actual changes are, but it is the same. It's really weird and it's disturbing. And I'm not going to explain it in full, but trust me, I'm right. Okay, just trust me. You can trust me, right? You can trust me.
I trust you with my life.
Do you trust me with triple tech chambers? They increase the damage dealt by They increase the damage dealt by the secondary shots from 0.5 to 0.75, which basically explain triple tech chambers in a way I didn't understand it before, which is that they do a percentage of the damage of the normal shots. So I guess it's 75% now. And given that you're going to be able to get more damage, you're actually going to be able to get a lot of damage out of triple tech chambers. That's going to be more of a thing. It used to be like triple tech was like you go for like controlled magnetic flow and use the lowest like cost shots to get like loads of trails. It was like more for AoE. But I think the single target thing's going to rise up now, and the trail thing's still going to be just as it's going to be there still. So that overclock's gotten more interesting, based on getting a little bit stronger, but also all the other changes as well. But then it's actually the next one that is probably the best overclock change specifically, which is backfeeding module, which is just the one that adds loads of ammo, and that's just like, oh, that's just pointless, right? Just because it also reduces damage, so you lose out on like some important breakpoints. But they basically just removed the damage penalty and basically trail duration. So now it's just obviously a direct damage thing. You get loads of shots that you can use Overcharger with, and you have enough ammo to easily justify taking increased direct damage. So yeah, backfeeding module is coming up. Backfeeding module, back baby. It was never here before, but it's back. It was never here before. So yeah, this is all great stuff. All brilliant stuff.
For the coil gun, the weapon that no one expected to get buffed.
Yeah, but it should have been. It should have been. It doesn't matter if something else should have come first. I think this still needed to happen, and I don't see it needing anything else as well either, except Reatomizer being thrown into a vat of acid. But apart from that, coil gun is coil fun. What's your fucking problem?
Fuck the coil gun.
Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck me, fuck poo, fuck we. Fuck two, fuck three.
That. Oh, that's it. We're demonetized. Oh no, wait, we're never monetized. Well then,
we're demonized. We're demons.
Oh.
Yeah, but despite the fact that you're a bitch, it's still all good changes. And that's really just that's just the name of the game for this update, really. What the hell are you doing?
Demon horns. Why I have long hair? Oh, Oh no!
I got like fake angry at something yesterday in class, and I punched the desk, and everyone looked at me. Um,
That's what happens when you punch a desk.
it was funny. It was really funny. But you know what I mean, though. Like, and I sort of I was anticipating this anyway. Really, the biggest point of this update and why it's just going to be automatically received well is just because it's just all good, at least.
Yeah, except for the fact that it's not actually being received that well.
Yeah,
That's the cool thing. People are complaining about the good changes, which I think makes sense. I think they left a scar. Season 4 has done irreparable damage because I thought that this would be enough. Right? They've tackled everything that I thought they would need to do, but it's not enough for some people, and a vocal amount of people, and it's got me thinking that yeah, no, I think the damage had been done. From now on, people are just gonna shit on Ghost Ship audibly for no good reason. Like that's just gonna occur. There's enough people now that generally hate the game enough to where they will just complain about everything constantly.
just
Uh,
madness.
yeah, I think that's occurred now, because yeah, people are bitching and moaning about the Stingtail getting nerfed. Like it's not that big a deal. If it's that bad, they'll get round to it. It's better that something's weak for a while and then they bring it back up at some other point than it's too strong, kicks people off the game, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I think there is also the fact that we see positives beyond just like what's just added. Like these updates just inherently represent something something good, which is just an increased level of flexibility. First of all, like them just not inherently needing the fact that they're doing updates that aren't they're not forcing to be huge packages and also aren't adding new content that can piss people off. It's those two things combined mean with these it's like it's just
it's a step
good.
away. Yeah, it's a step away from depending on seasons as well, which
Exactly.
say what you will, like that seasons didn't work 100% flawlessly. And now that they're approaching, a more different approach to Deep Rock, then it means things will go differently. Because as far as seasons went, it was predictable predictable decline, predictable decline, predictable decline, and it just kept going down, right? And now they're doing something different, which has hopefully changed. If it does or doesn't, we don't know yet. That's the good thing about it being different. But right now, looks pretty fucking good, right?
Yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter like if people don't inherently think they nailed everything or or tackled everything they needed to or anything like that. The point is it's an update that is not going to bloat the game. Like seriously, I mean that sounds stupid, but it's just like that's all that seasons were doing to us, like to a certain extent. I would say if you bar like the really great stuff, which I know it's not fair to, but I still consider the weapons very separate from the process of developing the seasons. The weapons added in the Gen 3 weapons. It meant that all the seasons were really doing was just adding content that was partially detached from the game anyway.
That was going to leave eventually.
Yeah, and that's why these maintenance updates are so important, especially if they actually happen more often than seasons, which might be the case. Because that's what the game needs.
This maintenance update, like if we want to break it down, kind of. First of all, there are some other things that I want to bring up that we'll get to in like the MISC area.
Yeah,
but they added 2 permanent features now to the seasonal experience. Right, they added the weapon maintenance thing, which is cool, and that will add more reasons to play the game and different weapons than you normally would. Second of all, they then added the switch to where if you don't like the season's content, from now on you can turn it off, or you've just had enough of it for a little while, you can turn it off. Either way, it will make the seasonal experience a lot better. Both of these things. That was just like I would say even a side thing, because I would say the main thing is the they sorted out season 4, right? All of the main complaints people had, they tackled, even if they shouldn't have tackled all of them for a certain enemy. They've tackled all of it, and they've added a bunch of weapon balancing, which, as season 4 proved, is phenomenally effective, despite probably being minimal effort compared to those other stuff. Right? Like it's not probably not the thing they put the most effort and time into, but it's the thing they will reap the biggest reward from. And all in all, I mean that's fucking fantastic, right? Like that's like we don't get much more than that technically from seasons.
Yeah, like this is for once I am genuinely on the side of this is an update I think we should actually be straight up grateful for, which is not something I would normally say. Or at least I'm close to believing it, which I normally wouldn't. Because truth is, they didn't have to. Much they don't have to do anything. I mean, I still believe in they owe it to themselves to do the best that they can with the game. But you know, moving on to working on a new game, that would for a lot of people would spell first of all abandoning the current game. But not only are they not doing that in the sense of they're still doing seasons, even if they're taking longer, but they're actually doing updates that the game needed more so than the type of updates that seasons were. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to obviously get our hands on it, yeah, but I'm very comfortable in just saying that this is a good thing in general. And it's very easy to say that, but I think it's just true. And also, there's a cat. Look at that. But yeah, I think that stuff's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more looking ahead kind of type thing. We could sort of just get onto the miscellaneous stuff, and that'd be the last sort of segment. I think, why is his tail like that? Why is it curving over him?
He's, oh god, he's pulled out my head. I can't hear you.
It's fucking ridiculous. It's not unprofessional.
Thank you.
So I think we can actually get through the rest of this because I need the toilet and I need a drink, but I think we can get through this without needing to break.
No, we're at the end. Basically, there's a couple of things, but I can only really think of one, and I think it's fire. They've added all of the game mode icons to the weapon loadout.
Yeah, and that goes beyond the specifics, though. That's just adding more loadout slot icons, which is an old thing. They haven't added more of those since they added them.
Because they actually added something else, I'm pretty sure. Like, they added a shield. Oh my god. Which is odd.
Fucking hell. Look
I
at this.
think that was on before.
Goblin.
Again.
Actual goblin.
This is... that was him himself. But yeah, basically, hell yeah. Because I mean, I have a build specifically for industrial sabotage, right? Now, instead of... I usually just use the fire icon, because essentially what it was.
Yeah, they're not going to be very useful for me. It's not really the way that I do things. It's not really.
Yeah, I mean.
No, well, actually, no, because I have a Robo Killer build, so that's obviously getting the industrial sabotage, but that's not like inherently.
I think...
What are you doing?
Yeah. I'm moving. I'm just sitting up. But
elimination, though. I mean, that's a good icon.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's actually great.
Not that I think I'll use it much, but just more customization. You know, they've slipped it in a little bit more. Little bit more customization. Yeah. But yeah, obviously the weapon customization still there's a bit more there, but I think there were some other things that I read. But
well, to an extent, it might make sense to go for. I know one, and you've forgotten. Added more light reflection to the walls of the Azure World and Hollow Bow. Yes. Apparently, you can make it's easier to see things in the Azure World.
It's a weird thing to slip in, considering how much people want that.
This might be a hot take. I like how dark it is there. I like that it's weird. I like that it's weirdly dark.
The issue is that it does get in the way of gameplay. That's the main issue, though, right? It makes it damn near impossible to find like Morkite or Dystrom, mainly Dystrom, in the Hollow Azure world, rather. So yeah, like you may like it. I think maybe it should have been like a toggle, maybe like a settings where you brighten up the caves a little bit, just generally. But I guess they chose this.
No,
which, you know, it is what it is.
Fuck off. Shut up.
All right.
Added. Oh, nope. Well, obviously, there's the hold to break out toggle in accessibility options. Thing is, it says for simpler Rockpox escapes. So, which I don't know if that. This implies something. but
Implies simpler.
well, no, it implies that it's only for that, but I don't think that's the case. It's
What do you mean it's not the case?
well, it should be for everything where you have to everything that you can break out of.
I guess.
I mean, the only other thing is actually freezing, right? I think that's the only other thing.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, sure, it should. They changed something to do with enemy produced puddles to make it easier to cover them with platforms.
Oh.
Bugs, lots of bug fixes, and this is where some of the other stuff is. Fixed not being able to grab. Yeah, fixed not being able to grab gunk seeds while in the air. I didn't know you couldn't grab them in the air.
This was 98% of the update, right?
Yeah.
What I say.
Yeah. And then there's
There is
the
actually
satchel
something,
charge stuff. Yeah, come on.
Oh right, that's something which I'm not sure if I noticed. I felt like I wasn't having central charges, but I feel like that's just like retroactive stuff. But there is something for Driller more than central charges. The wave cooker got something.
I know. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, the weird thing about, I guess it makes sense when I think about it, but even it's making me feel really stupid. So they fixed gamma contamination not working if you hit armor. I don't remember it ever being a thing, but if it was definitively, then it's gonna get better. Now, okay, it's also the thing is, it's really difficult to tell how true it is because it's difficult to know exactly what they mean by armor as well. Because it would be so easy for it to go through light armor, but at the same time, on something like a grunt, you probably wouldn't notice because chances are, with the wave cooker, you're going to be hitting a little bit of exposed flesh at any given moment. So
I think that's the reason why you would never really notice it, because you are normally.
But I think I
always
noticed it against oppressors.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't recall being able to do them on the front, right? Like, not that I ever really tried, but I don't know. I think it's cool and interesting and annoying that they shove a bunch of like weapon balancing in the bugs because there were things that didn't work that should have worked.
Yeah, there was one. I can't remember when it was. It might have actually been season 3, genuinely. So it was quite a while, maybe. Oh, season 3 or 4. They fixed something with the shard diffractor where like the shard diffractor would be blocked by enemies in their death animation. So it couldn't, when they were just dying, when they were just falling apart, like flaking apart, it would still hit them instead of just going through to the next enemy. So that made like really bad when he was shooting directly at a horde. And that was obviously a buff to the shard diffractor. So sort of things like that. Added a miner's manual entry for the Jetty Boot arcade game.
It's cool. Odd, but cool.
Yeah.
The miner's manual is getting filled with a bunch of random shit.
But yeah, so what was that it then?
Pretty much. It was just all I wanted to talk about was the icons for the things.
Yeah, that was the big. Well, that was one of the little surprises. That was a surprise. So yeah, very nice, very nice. Only thing of like this actually quite good though is giving like the hired guards a thing where they have to spawn the sentinels after a certain amount of time. Frankly, I didn't know this was still an issue, to be honest, but which is kind of ridiculous that it was. Christ.
I mean, it depends how much time it is, because I mean, if it's still like a minute, then it's not really that big a deal. But if it's like forced 10 seconds, then that will save a lot of time. Because sometimes it can stick for about a minute without spawning any. But if it's like forced 10 seconds, then that will save often. Forced 30 seconds, then maybe sometimes it might help.
Yeah.
But
they fixed the shellbacks T-posing when they're killed by damage over time effects.
This update is the dev hates the players. Oh, what was it? I think that was it.
What was that? Was that for this?
Yeah, but it was like
really?
someone, I think Zaxxas Chrono said, like when they removed the overclock grind, like he did, like the update that hates players or some shit like that.
Yeah. This is the update that hates Stingtails.
Yeah. Because players hate the Stingtails. So this update loves players.
Yeah, it does
But
love
yeah,
players, and they should be understand that. Okay, you need to understand
so
this update loves you, and
yeah,
me, and him.
and I think as long as it's like, I think complaining about this update is still fine as normal, but there's no attacking Ghost Ship inherently that's warranted at this point in time, right? Like
Yeah,
I feel like directly, like not attacking Ghost Ship, but like calling out Ghost Ship season 4 was fair enough. I think Ghost Ship fucked up, and I think they deserve to like be directly approached for it. But at this point in time, they did something good. This is just personal preference, and you need to remember it is right. Like if they made a change that you didn't quite like, then it doesn't really matter. You can say it, but no one's really gonna give a shit.
like the only actual worsening of the player experience in this update that's even arguable is a version of like a way of building Hellfire got slightly worse.
Yeah,
Get
it's like
over
the
it,
only thing that,
right?
yeah,
Makes it because take this update, what it's doing, and don't complain about what wasn't in it. Suggest those things for the next one.
yeah. I mean, that's in, when was it, March?
Yeah, because frankly, I don't know what they're gonna do, and that excites me.
Well,
Frankly,
yeah. I mean, I think prepping for season 5 is my theory. That they'll start putting down some things ready for season 5.
yeah, I think some
Content
customization
wise,
stuff would make sense. Actually,
yeah.
as much as they can,
Like, and not
we can do.
actual items, just like actual, sorting out the customization thing. Because I think
Yeah,
that's definitely something a maintenance update could tackle, right?
yeah,
Um, is slowly but surely dissecting and improving the cosmetic system, uh, and other stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, it's something I want to
I don't
get
know.
into
I
even the next episode or or a later podcast about trying to figure out what the next one should be, and also what the limits of a maintenance update is. Something I want to try and figure out. Well, and that would be more appropriate for after the next one, actually, when you think about it.
yeah,
Figuring
and
out what we can
I
really
think
do with these. But
yeah, but I think it is worth mentioning that like how much of this content we wouldn't have gotten if they released season 5 like now, right, or like soon
yeah,
from now.
it would have just
Like
added
how much?
because the performance pass is still a great thing, but it would have just added even more like rigidly, what's the word, this rigid quota of cosmetics, instead of like, because honestly the weapon maintenance thing is not about the cosmetics for me at all. It's just about the incentive.
Yeah,
So it would have just added even more. It would have just added more enemies because that's going to be a season thing now, especially if they take longer. New enemies is just automatic, but
they
it's going to add even more
probably wouldn't
enemies that
have
just
added.
piss people off.
Yeah,
Other random
they probably
content. It
wouldn't have
doesn't.
added the switch.
It's just whatever it adds. It's just going to be less room for changes like this. So
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. This is absolutely a better path. I mean, obviously, it still took like 5 months from season 4, but obviously, short gap until the next maintenance update, and then a really short gap between that and season 5. So,
yeah.
once again,
And then obviously
it took a
not to
little while
mention
to get
during
here,
all of
but
this,
I think yeah,
and like we're getting these contents more frequently than we normally do, and obviously it's less overall content, but the quality is still there, and like the value that the players treat it, I think, is about equal to seasons. Like
well,
I think people value this update more than season 4, right?
yeah.
I think
Well, I think
that's
in a live service
you
game
know,
that was pretty much feature complete before it started doing seasons. I think just things that just positive changes are valuable, is valuably spent development time. Content,
yeah,
new content is not the only valuable use of dev time, at all, not even slightly. And anyone who holds that position is an idiot. But this goes beyond that, and not only just our bug fix is good, but this makes a lot of good changes in terms of basically features that are changes, like the season toggle. It's like a new feature
yeah.
that's more of a big change than actual content, though. And that's
I
valuable.
just think
That's
it's
still valuable. That's more than very
yeah, it's
valuable. In
like
fact,
how much more like valuable stuff has just been added to Deep Rock and changed to Deep Rock, and yet I think they would say, and they have said, they are working on Roll Call right now, not Deep Rock, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, like half of the team have been doing this maintenance patch, but like they're they're not really working on Deep Rock at the moment, and yet we've got some of the most substantial content in a year. like,
Yeah, and it's
like
and it's
I
it kind of just shows something very strange in that there was absolutely a rigidity to seasons that wasn't working for them. It's so obvious that having
yeah,
an update
and the community at this point as
like
well.
this update didn't technically have any quotas to meet. It was just like, what can we do? And none of it is like required. You know, there's nothing we have
Yeah,
to do, and that just completely flipped the dynamic. I think of just the quality of decisions made basically for the update,
yeah,
because they were free. Everything here was a ground up decision rather than it being like, oh, what's the new types of enemies we got to add, or what's the new framework we got to create, and all these kind of things. You know, it was
yeah.
these were ground
Although
up
they did
decisions.
to do, but still,
Yeah.
they. I mean, it's actually not frameworks. It was thingies, paint jobs. But still, I don't know. Yeah, I
Hey
think
man,
it was
hey,
just
if you want to make
overall.
the frameworks the weapon maintenance things from now on.
God, they would kill themselves. But
No, that would replace the
maybe
frameworks in the cosmetic tree. It would.
yeah, maybe every fifth season would be nice. But yeah, it's
Every fifth season.
yeah, it would be like a framework in the thingy. Obviously, it
Every
means the next season would have
fifth
to do it.
season.
But no, we get enough frameworks.
And yeah, obviously
But
that's going to
I
stop.
don't know.
Well, that's why I think it's. I don't. Maybe I should save that actually. Um. So yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. I wasn't going to say anything.
I But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's crazy how we're getting some of the best stuff for Deep Rock we've had in a long while, and yet they're not even working on Deep Rock. Like, like, like they are putting most of their eggs in the future game basket, and yet our basket is still more tasty than it's been in a while, right? Like, it's kind of wild how just good of an idea it was to work on Roadcore. Like, obviously, it put a lot of people off and made a lot of people sad and annoyed and so on and so forth because of how poorly they managed it. Right? They fucked up real bad with Roadcore like that early on. They didn't mention the maintenance patches in the streams, and they hyped people up for Deep Rock and then talked about something that wasn't Deep Rock. Right? They really fucked
Yeah.
up there.
So this
But
is the difference as well, right? What this is called, guys, right? This is called being, well, I wouldn't say level-headed. We can get quite we can go off the
Yeah.
rails, but it's called not. It's called being on the side of. I don't know what it's called. It's just but what it isn't is being black and white. That's what it's not.
yeah,
It's not just picking one
nuance.
side and
This
sticking
is
to it no matter
being
what.
nuanced.
They do a lot
Yeah.
of stupid shit, and that the way they ran that stream was an example of that. They really,
Yeah.
and I think and yeah, I blame Mikkel and Soren. Those guys should understand how important specs are, like how important it is what's being said about your game, especially when you're in charge of it. And the way that went down, you know, like, yeah, I love Mikkel, but it's like the way that they talked about roll call, like everyone was just automatically going to be happy about the changes that meant, and how the only mention of Deep Rock's development during that stream really was like, season 5 is in June next year.
Yeah.
Come on.
And like yeah, like
It's why I can't entirely blame people for everything they say. I blame people for harassment.
ultimately,
Harassment is obviously a take. We're never going to endorse harassment, but you know.
yeah. But like being angry at Ghost Ship was entirely fair in that situation. They had it coming because of how poorly they portrayed what they actually wanted. Because they were so happy about the news, they just kind of forgot.
The actual plan was better than the explanation of what was going on, and that's the problem. People will focus on what they say. Because that tells them everything they need to know as far as they're concerned, but that doesn't But when what you say doesn't actually represent what you're doing, that's going to cause a miscommunication.
They misinformed their own community on that stream.
Or they didn't deliver the information they should have done at least. I mean, you could argue it was misinformation. I'd argue it was pseudo misinformation at least. It was misleading, which is not inherently misinformation, but it was still misleading.
Not in their favour, which is not normally how they do it. Like anyone should do it. But right now, we are in the first step of their plan, and people are fucking loving it already.
Well, yeah,
right?
I mean,
like we have got this maintenance update people
them
love.
Choosing to make roll call was great, and I agree because it basically means it's forced them to it's just forced them to make updates that aren't seasons, and that's the core of it.
Yeah.
Like genuinely.
Yeah. And like, because literally, it's like ignoring Rogue Core. Look at what we've already got out of it for Deep Rock, right? Like, we've already got an update that I think is universally praised and enjoyed and loved, right? We're gonna get another one in like 4 or 5 months, and
4
then
months.
we're gonna get
4 months.
we're gonna get a season in
3 months
the
after.
same time we got one next year, and then
But it'll be, it's like
by
three,
this
3
time
months
next
after
year,
the next update though. It's like that's a really short
yeah.
for Deep Rock,
Yeah, and then by bloody this time next year, we're gonna have another Deep Rock game
Well,
to play.
that's the only thing that's
right?
not set in stone, I think, though, because that could like be I don't know.
Yeah, it could still be delayed, and obviously Xbox is still in the air, or like consoles is still in the air.
Well,
But
my understanding of
ultimately-
that is the reason why it's too early is because I think their intention is to not bother with early access on console, because that's a conundrum. Like that's difficult to do at the same time as doing early access on Steam. And I think they're just going to be thinking about console when they get to actually like the 1.0 for Rogue Core. That's when that's going to come up, I think.
Yeah, which is in like 4 years or 3 years.
Yeah, I'd
So
say like
I
2
think you need
years,
to keep in
like
mind
2
what you're
years at
saying,
best after early
like-
access launch. Like,
Yeah, but I doubt it. I just like, if they did it for Deep Rock, why would they not do it for Rogue Core? Like, surely it's going to be, if anything,
I know.
easier for them. They've already gone through it. Their team is bigger, and genuinely, like, you can't. It would be a bad PR move, basically.
but they would
even
also,
though,
but Tyler,
like,
they would also be putting out. I mean, they're doing it by putting it on Steam anyway, but they'd be putting out an unfinished game and charging people for it technically. So, and how does that look right now, based on how people feel about them right now? I don't know. It's probably not.
well, right now,
I think
people
there's
are
reasons
feeling a
why
lot
it's
better.
not. Yeah, I know.
I don't know
that's
why
where
we should be waiting for Rogue Core to go on consoles like the same day as PC. Like that's where we should be gunning for. But obviously that's unlikely. But like, I don't know. It's just the console makes up such a huge part of their audience.
Yeah.
And mostly ours. Well, I don't know actually about that, but obviously, like, like
Yeah,
the
probably not.
Xbox and PlayStation players. I mean, that's like probably like around half minimum or maximum. Like, I think that's generally an average, right? The Microsoft version. But like, and I think, like, the thing is, it's to say that we're getting shafted by not getting Rogue Core, because basically all the things they're working on during this time we won't get until like 2 to 3 to 4 years later. But right now, we're getting a really good maintenance update, and we will get maintenance updates, and we will get seasons during that time.
Yeah.
We won't be entirely up Shit's Creek, but we will be getting a lot less from them
It's
than
like
PC players.
It somehow increased the frequency and variety of updates. Somehow.
Yeah.
That's really bizarre.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so much like.
And right now,
it's why I
quality as
don't.
well.
I really. I. By the way, I still think there's a little bit of They're still leaving sometimes too long gaps between like communication. I think a lot of the things they mentioned about open development should have probably kicked in by
It's
now.
been a while since they've done a.
Yeah, exactly. Like the below decks thing. There should have been at least one more by now. But either way, I don't want to see anyone being like, "Oh, I miss the old Ghost ship." You weren't there.
Yeah.
You can't have been there. You can't if you're saying that at this point. The old Ghost ship was obviously this is split between 2 games now, but old Ghost ship was doing like working on an early access game and doing a mixture of big and small updates. If you want to be really like reductive, that is quite reductionist, but that is what they're doing at the moment. And so yeah, it's that's why we say we're back, because they're back in a way.
Yeah.
Right? In a way.
While they're working on another game,
But
which is crazy.
I think we might be starting to spiral. So, and this is basically a weird sort of preemptive thoughts, basically, to us playing the update. Next will be your thoughts. So we definitely want lots of comments. And then the week after that will be our thoughts. Even though this is our thoughts. But, yeah. So, I think we should end it. Yeah? She did that quite well done. That was if you don't mind me saying, well executed. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode of Average Podcast, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to stay on top of everything to do with road core and just road core, actually, I usually say deep rock first. I meant to say deep rock and road core. Hit the bell as well. You won't say you will be well informed, more well informed than if you only let Ghost Ship tell you everything. Even though I only tell you everything that they tell us, but that's the point. Not everyone sees everything that they say, but I do.
Not that we even do either.
No, I don't mean that. I just
dev streams.
Yeah, that's true, and we probably should, given that the dev Q&A guy's gone. It's gone MIA. It's gone
rogue.
It's gone rogue. All right. I think we need to definitively put a pin in this. It's over. Say goodbye, Tyler.
Goodbye, Tyler.
That's goodbye from Tyler, and that's goodbye from me. Goodbye.